Good evening, Chief Rabbi, Honored Rabbonim, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our Zayin Adar event to honor the men and the women who perform the holy mitzvah, the holy task of caring for our departed. Chief Rabbi, it is always an honor to ask you to address us. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Fox. It is such an honor to participate in this Zayin Adar event, something which I treasure this opportunity and view it indeed as a privilege to be able to come to pay tribute to the holy members of the Chevrah Kadisha. Indeed, as the name says, Chevrah Kadisha is the holy society, because from the perspective of what it means to be a Jew, holiness is giving. It is the essence of giving to another without expectation of any kind of transaction that takes place. It is just giving from the bottom of one's heart with generosity, with kindness. That is what holiness is. And in fact, Rav Shimon Shkop, one of the great rabbis of Lithuanian Jewry, explains in his introduction to his book, Sharei Yosher, it says, when the Torah commands us, Kadoshim ti, you shall be holy, Ki kadosh ani Hashem, because I, God, am holy. He says the definition of holiness is giving. It's giving in the truest sense of the word. And that's why there could not be a more appropriate name than the Chevrah Kadisha, the society of holiness, the holy society, because it is a society of giving. And we are paying tonight tribute to what Rabbi Fox mentioned, the chesed shel emet, what our sages describe as the ultimate true kindness, the kindness which is done for those who leave this world because they cannot say thank you. And they cannot say thank you, but tonight we take that opportunity to say thank you and to acknowledge the holiness of this holy organization. But not to forget for a moment that this is marked on the yortzeit of Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses. His yortzeit was today, Zayin Adar. The mincha service and the minhag then for the misaskim, those who are involved in this process of preparing the body of the one who has departed this world, preparing the body with dignity, with kindness, with compassion, preparing for burial, looking after and ensuring that the burial takes place in the most dignified manner. That is marked by Jewish communities throughout the world on the yortzeit, on the anniversary of the departure and of Moshe Rabbeinu, of Moses, our teacher. The Zayin Adar is his yortzeit. And let's reflect for a moment why the yortzeit of Moses was chosen to be the day that the Chevrah Kadishas in all parts of the world pay tribute and acknowledge the members of the community that take this mitzvah so seriously and conduct it with such important care. Why was his yortzeit chosen as this momentous day on an annual basis to do so? And so I think there are two reasons behind it. One is Moses taught us by personal example. There is this incredible moment at the Yetziat Mitzrayim of the Exodus from Egypt. It says in the pasuk in Parshat Beshalach, "Vayikach Moshe et atzmot Yosef imo," and Moses took the bones of Joseph with him. And the Talmud makes the point that at that moment they were just on the brink of leaving Egypt. That was the moment where they were leaving Egypt and they were going into freedom. And Moses was the leader of the entire people. Can you imagine having the responsibility to lead the Jewish people out of Egypt after all of the incredible miracles and wonders that Hashem had carried out? Moses was the leader. They were leaving. This was the greatest moment in Jewish history, and he was the leader. And what was he doing at that moment? He was being the Chevrah Kadisha. He was worried about the body of Joseph, Yosef HaTzadik, who'd made the brothers take an oath that when they left Egypt and they would be taken out, that they would remember to take him with them so that he could be buried in the land of Israel. And in the midst of all of that chaos, with all of his other responsibilities, can you imagine the responsibilities that Moses must have had at that moment? And yet he put everything aside and he did it himself. He didn't even outsource it. Vayikach Moshe et atzmot Yosef imo. He went to go and find it. And that is a remarkable statement of leadership, because what Moses was saying is, It's true, this is a grand event, a headline capturing event, the greatest event of all of human history, the moment of the liberation of the slaves from Egypt. That moment is such an incredible moment. And yet, what is he doing? He's saying to the people, the most important part of leadership is the care for each and every single individual. It is about the integrity of honoring a promise that we said we were going to take Joseph out. We must honor that. And he was saying real leadership is care and compassion for the dignity of every human being. It is about the integrity of keeping promises. It is about going to do those mitzvahs and doing them yourself. And that is what Moshe did at that very moment. And not only that, at that moment, everybody else was seizing upon another opportunity, an opportunity that God had made a promise to Abraham. And he said, when your descendants go out of Egypt after all the years of slavery, they will not leave empty-handed. The Egyptian taskmasters will offer them gold and silver as reparations for all of the years of work. So the entire nation was gathering in the gold and silver. The entire nation was gathering in the gold and silver, and they were doing so on the instruction of Hashem. It wasn't that they were doing anything wrong. They were doing so. Hashem said to Moshe, tell the people they must do it because I need to fulfill my promise to Abraham to when I said that they were going to go out with the gold and silver. So everybody was running from home to home, collecting in the gold and silver from the Egyptians, except Moses, because he was saying this mitzvah is more holy than all the gold and all the silver in the world. And the Gemara says about Moshe Rabbeinu, Chacham leiv yikach mitzvahs. The wise of heart will go and take mitzvahs. The wise of heart will know that gold and silver will be left behind in this world. And if there's anybody who knows that gold and silver is left behind in this world, it is all of the holy people gathered here tonight to commemorate Zayin Adar. You know it, because when you are the ones who are dealing with the bodies of the departed, and when you're dealing with the body of the departed, and that body is cared for and placed with dignity in the coffin, and then eventually in the grave, you know better than any of us that into that coffin and into that grave goes no gold and no silver and none of the precious things that we run after in this world as if they mean everything, when in fact we have to leave them behind when we leave this world because we cannot hold on to it. But Moshe Rabbeinu vayikach Moshe et atzmos Yosef imo, says the Gemara from the verse in Proverbs, Chacham leiv yikach mitzvahs. The wise of heart will take mitzvahs. You have to be wise in your heart to know that. You, the misaskim, the holy members of this holy society, you are chachamei leiv, wise of heart, because you know what is truly important in life. You dedicate yourself to mitzvahs and to this great mitzvah, one of the greatest of all, the chesed shel emet, of this kindness of truth that you do, and you are gathering in those mitzvahs each and every single day, storing up a treasure of mitzvahs in the next world, the only treasures that we take. We leave behind, as the Mishnah in Pirkei Avot says, all the gold and silver in this world. The treasures we take to the next world, to the eternal world. The only currency that is of value in Olam Haba, in the next world, is the currency of mitzvahs, of the good deeds that we do in this world. That is the most precious. And that's why, by the way, in a cemetery, the men will know we don't wear tzitzit out, because we're in the presence of those who can't do mitzvahs. And it is insensitive to display mitzvahs, because we then have this incredible opportunity to do mitzvahs here in this world, which we can't do in the next world. As the Mishnah in Pirkei Avot says, one moment of mitzvahs in this world is worth an entire lifetime in the world to come. And one moment of pleasure and tranquility in this world, in the next world, is worth all of the pleasures of this world. The only currency in this world is mitzvahs, and therefore we can't even wear our tzitzit out in a cemetery, because it's loeg l'rash. It is mocking those who do not have the opportunity. And that is the story they tell of the great Vilna Gaon, that on his deathbed he was crying, and his students gathered around him, and this story is recorded by Rabbi Yoshe Ber Soloveitchik in one of his great essays, and his students gathered around the Vilna Gaon, and they said, but Rabbeinu, our teacher, why are you crying? You are going to a Gan Eden that we can only even begin to imagine what a Gan Eden it is. And the Vilna Gaon says, because he said in this, he held his tzitzis, and he says, for a few rubles in this world. He was writing, this happened in Vilna. He said, for a few pennies in this world, I can do a mitzvah of Hashem. When I leave this world, I can no longer do mitzvahs. That is the greatest currency, and that is what you know as the Chevrah Kadisha of this holy society. You know it more than ever, and you know it better than anybody else. And Moshe Rabbeinu is our great teacher who taught us not through his words, but through his actions. Because at that moment when we left Egypt, Moshe Rabbeinu was teaching us, don't run around after the gold and the silver, come and grab mitzvahs. Chacham leiv yikach mitzvahs, the wise of heart will take mitzvahs. And the final point is this. Final point is that it is the yortzeit of Moshe Rabbeinu, because when Moshe Rabbeinu died, who looked after him? Who was his Chevrah Kadisha? So the Torah teaches us it was Hashem, it was God. Hashem himself, the King of all kings, he was the Chevrah Kadisha for Moshe Rabbeinu. Moses goes up on the mountain, and God is the one who buries Moshe Rabbeinu. And from there, the Gemara learns the mitzvah of looking after the departed. Because the mitzvah of chesed, of loving kindness, is learnt from the pasuk, V'alachta bidrachav, to walk in the ways of Hashem. Ma'hu rachum, afatah rachum, in the same way he's compassionate, so too you shall be compassionate. And then the Gemara gives examples. Hashem visits the sick, he comforts the mourners. And then it says, he buries the dead. And when the Gemara says, where did Hashem bury the dead? He buried Moshe Rabbeinu. So this occasion of paying tribute to the misaskim, to the members of the Chevrah Kadisha for looking after the departed of our community, is on the yortzeit of Moshe Rabbeinu, not only because of what Moshe Rabbeinu teaches us, but because of what God himself teaches us. This is the anniversary of the mitzvah of chesed, of looking after the dead. Because this is the anniversary in which God himself did it, and then he taught us that he himself, God was the original Chevrah Kadisha, was Hashem himself. And therefore, it is not an exaggeration. Indeed, it is completely accurate to say that you members of the Chevrah Kadisha, who look after the departed of our community, you are doing God's work. It's not just a statement you're doing God's work. You actually are. That's what the Gemara says. That's what Moshe Rabbeinu's death teaches us, was the moment that God became the Chevrah Kadisha, and then he taught us for all future generations, follow in God's ways, and then you are doing God's work in this world. And therefore, indeed, as we gather here this evening, this is Admas Kodesh, holy ground. We are sitting here on holy ground because we are in the presence of holy people. And may Hashem indeed bless each and every single one of you and your families for the holy work that you do for our community. May Hashem bless our entire community in your merit, because we need your merit. And may Hashem shower his blessings on this community, on indeed all of Am Yisrael, and indeed all citizens and human beings of this country. We all need blessing at this time more than ever. And the holy merit that you bring, may that be a source of blessing for us all. God bless you and thank you.